Hey everyone! In today's video, I just want to quickly share a new function that I think ChatGPT's Dall-E has been rolling out in the past couple of weeks in secret under the radar. And this function is none other than the creation of seed IDs. So in my previous video, I've shared two methods where you can create consistent characters using Dall-E. However, in those experiments, you will realize that I was unable to create a unique seed ID for every image that Dall-E creates. Now with this new function, we will be able to get ChatGPT to provide us a unique ID for every single image that they generate. In other words, we can now use this same seed ID to create the same characters using different prompts to generate different variations or different settings, but the characters remains the same. So without further ado, let's hop over to my screen so that we can see it in action. So to begin, I just want to bring you back to an older chat that I've used to create some images using Dall-E. So in this chat over here, this is something that I've done in my previous video, which was about probably 1.5 to 2 weeks ago, which is to create an image of a person folding an origami, right? Just to test out the fingers and also the accuracy of the prompts. If I scroll down over here, when I ask for the seed ID of image 1, it tells me it's 5,000. And when I ask the seed ID of image 3, it is also 5,000. So in other words, all 4 images here all shares the same seed ID and it's always 5,000, right? So if I hop over to this coffee table test, which I have generated using one of the prompts by Paul, I tried to recreate this Asian lady over here in other settings, right? Using other prompts. So when I got the image ID, it also tells me it's 5,000, right? But I was able to create a somewhat similar image. Maybe they still look slightly different, but it's somewhat similar. And I would have to do like a couple of times. So if you look over here at this number, right, I actually ran this prompt like 5 times and over here 2 times, right, just to create a somewhat similar image. Okay, so in this case over here, every single iteration that I've done, they still tell me that it is 5,000. So in other words, if I want to then change my prompts to feature this old man, for example, right, it will still be using the ID of 5,000. Hence, it is slightly more inaccurate and you would have to run the prompts many times. Right now, it's slightly different because I've realized from a Reddit post, which I will post it in the description below, you will be able to find a unique ID that's generated on every single chat. So I'll just do a very quick example over here. If I hop over to this group of people, right, and I just did a very simple prompt, like I create a portrait of people chatting away at a bar, it will then describe the image to me, and this is the Dall-E's description. So when I ask what's the seed ID of image 1, it gives me a unique ID. So this is a more recent chat that I've created just today at the creation of this video. And when I ask the seed ID of image 2, it gives me another unique ID. So if I press F12 for the developers tool, you will be able to then copy this ID over here and search for it. Right, so all you need to just to refresh, open up the developers tool, go under network and search for this chat ID, right, that you see above. Okay, and the moment you search for this chat ID, you will notice there are 2 files over here. Just click on the second one and you can hover over to this response tab over here. And when you search for seed, you will be able to see that a unique ID is generated, right? And you will see your prompt, your generation ID, and so on. So now you will be able to do that, right? Where previously when we asked ChatGPT for it, they will not be able to provide us this seed ID. But right now we are able to have this seed ID, which is really very beneficial for us because we can now use this seed ID to generate many different types of image with the same characters, right? So I've done one example over here, which I will share it right now. Okay, so in this example, I started off by trying to get Spider-Gwen, right? They tell me there's copyright issues and stuff. And you notice that this time around, they start to create lesser image. Instead of a 4 grid, they either give 1 or they give 2 images. So I took the ID, I tried to change her hair color and they did exactly that. So it's a little bit on the different dimensions, but this image is kind of like rotated, right? So I gave it another try. I prompted it to create a portrait of a beautiful Asian lady at a cafe. It gives me 2 variations. I like the first one better. So I've got the seed ID over here. And by using this seed ID, I just changed her hair to blonde and you can see the difference, right? The hair is totally different, but the face is exactly the same. It is so much better than the previous one that I did, the coffee table test that I've done. So you can see that it's more consistent. The clothes are the same. The face is the same. Just the hair color is totally different. I then further use the same ID to add a cat. So it did exactly that. The face somewhat different, but it still looked almost alike, right? and now with an added on cap, just like how you use the generative fill in Adobe Firefly or in Midjourney, where you can add things on top of images, right? So I just did that by using prompts and seed IDs. So using the same seed ID, now I've added another person. I wanted Dall-E to create a realistic photo of another guy sitting across a table with the same lady in the seed ID of this number and in the same exact setting, but facing her and chatting away, right? And this is what they gave me. So yes, the lady looks a little bit different. I might probably run it a couple more times to keep it up with the consistency, but they are taking context from my previous prompts, right? But now they have added this person. So I went on further to use the same ID, and now I wanted to create a photo of both of this guy and girl facing the camera, posing for a shot, and this is what I've got. Right, so you can see that it's really good generations, and the lady here, very consistent looking. The cap is there, the blonde hair, you know, with a little bit mixture of the black. So they are taking context from my previous prompt. Obviously, if you want to track backwards, you can go back to the previous chat over here and edit it, right, to generate the second generation without taking context of the prompts below, right? So instead of creating send a new message here, you can always go back to the level that you want and edit the prompt, right? So that you don't add more additional context, right? So because the image will just take whatever context that's above the chat. Okay, and I've done 2 variations actually, and it looks pretty consistent, just that the lady probably looks a little bit different. And on my second try, I went on to get the same seed ID, and I wanted to zoom in on this guy and put Apple Watch on his wrist, right? And this is what they gave me. So this is somewhat different, I know, but at least they are following the prompts, and I haven't tried it a couple more times. If I had tried a couple more times, I might be able to get someone that looks a little bit more like this person over here. But with that in mind, this is the power of seed IDs. All you need to do is just to generate the seed ID. And how do we go about doing that? There are a couple of ways, right? It's either by that F12 method that I've showed you earlier, which is opening up the developer tools. But this is somewhat more complicated, right? Alternatively, the most simplest way is to go to your prompt, right? Like this portrait of a group of people chatting away at a bar, right? All you need to do is after generating your first generation of image, just ask the seed ID, right? You can just ask ChatGPT, what is the seed ID? And it's going to be able to give you the seed ID. So like, for example, image 1 is this seed ID, right? So now you can do something like using image 1 and seed ID of create the same group of people drinking coffee. All right, and let's see what it generates, right? So I've just gotten it to refer back to image 1 with this seed ID, but instead of being at a bar, I just prompt ChatGPT to create the same group of people, but instead of at a bar setting, now they're drinking coffee, right? So let's see what it does. Okay, so it created the image, but it's somewhat different from the initial prompt, right? So not all the time you will be able to generate very consistent people, right? Especially when there are a group of them. So circling back to creating these seed IDs, right? Another way to do it is to use custom instructions. So what I have here is a very simple prompt, right? For every image generated, display their seed ID. So with this one simple prompt, for every image that you create, it will automatically generate a seed ID for you. For example, if I say something like create cute dog chasing after a boy, there you have it. Okay, so I've just generated 2 images, really good looking ones, and it just gives me the seed ID. So then you can use this seed ID, for example, without shoes. All right, so using this seed ID, create the same image but with the same boy without shoes. There you have it, right? So you can see how consistent this is. It's almost the same boy, although his hair is a little bit fluffy. This dog looks almost identical, right? So you can see that with the seed ID, it's able to very closely replicate the image without you to having run the prompt several times like before. And I can just remove shoes, although the hands here is a bit distorted, right? But it proves the point. Now with seed IDs, you will be able to more consistently create characters and use them across different prompts. Okay, so that's about it for this video. I just want to do this quick video to share this important feature that you might miss out because you might not know that it's possible to even create this seed ID, right? So with that in mind, if you find this video helpful, do give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. In the next couple of videos, I might go in a very different route and start exploring very powerful AI tools like our AI agents, right? So there's this tool right now that I'm really actively using and experimenting, and it's known as AutoGen. This particular tool allows me to create multiple AI agents, right, to work together to perform a big task. In other words, I could potentially create a whole team of marketers, a whole team of content writers, or maybe even a whole team of developers, a product manager, a scrum master, and so on, right? Just to work together, create a whole application for me, which I can then run it live straight away. So it's really exciting. Do stay tuned for that and stay safe.